so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Since the chairman isn't here, I'm going to be acting chair. And I'm going to call the meeting to order in accordance with some sunshine law provisions at 7:05 p.m. We have Mary, Connor, Ellen, Stephen, Arnie, and Councilman Vasanel with us tonight. This is Sarah Malone. And let's see. So that is the roll call, and I'll record separately who's absent. So Secretary's report, the first item of business is to approve the May minutes. Did everyone receive the minutes that Ellen sent out? I think it was yesterday. Very, very detailed minutes, and kudos to Ellen for pulling that all together. I think with the amount of stuff that we've been discussing lately and the detail, it's kind of nice to have the extended version of the minutes instead of just the brief notes. So I hope everybody got a chance to review them. I had two small changes, Ellen. One is on the first page where Mary was noted as absent. She had emailed Chris and I before the meeting, so she will be excused, not absent. And then on the third page, under section 3E, which is under public information, the Franklin Times discussion, you had indicated Boy Scout tree tagging project would be the topic, a suggested topic of a feature article for the next Franklin Times. And I believe that was actually a suggestion that we do an extended article on the hazard and ash tree tagging project, not the Boy Scouts, because that's a very new project and probably not ready for prime time.
Sarah, excuse me, but Chris is having trouble getting on, and I told him you sent an email earlier today.
I did.
Oh, wait a sec. Hold on. Did you say you found it? Okay. All right. All right, he found it, so he should be on momentarily.
Okay,
so you're going to make those changes, right?
Yeah, so yeah, if you can, I can make those changes if everybody agrees to them, but is that everyone's recollection on that last item that it was that Jim had suggested we do an article on the hazard and ash tree tagging project, not the Boy Scout project?
I remember us talking about a variety of things related to that. And then at one point I said, I think the Franklin Times, sorry, I forgot the name, would be a great place to explain it in a real feature length article, whatever pictures or whatever, whatever can get it across to the public.
Okay.
So what is the technical name of the program, by the way?
The hazard and ash tree, what's the formal name of it?
No, that's okay. I just
ash tree tagging. Well, it wasn't a tagging project. It was an identification project. It was an inventory. It was an inventory. Hazard and ash tree inventory. Yeah.
Okay. No, whatever it is, I just never really knew the official name and just knew it was basically inventory in trees that showed any sign of hazard or disease.
Okay. So I would just recommend that we substitute for the words Boy Scout, hazardous and ash tree. And that will make that fine. So I'm going to make a motion to accept. Oh, does anybody else have any recommended changes to the minutes? Okay, then I'm going to propose that we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Who was that? Was that Arnie?
Chris.
Sounds like Chris.
Chris, hi Chris. Okay.
Hi.
Chris seconds.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Or just put your hand up, rather, if you might be muted. Everyone raise your hand if you approve those. Make that, Okay, any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved as amended. Okay, Chris, I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Pardon me, for just a technical secretary point. So since the motion was made after discussion of changes, is it technically that the motion was made to accept
The minutes as amended.
prior to the motion? Or in that instance, we agreed on it, so it's like they weren't really part of, I mean, if we're doing the Robert's Rules of Order thing, how would I write that?
I think you just, the way that we've done it before is that you just say that,
The motion should have been, the motion should have been amended if that's correct what Ellen is saying.
I made a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I thought
Proposing
Ellen was
the
saying that,
minutes.
Ellen, well, I'll let Ellen speak for herself. Fine.
No, just that a motion hadn't been made before we had discussion about it. So in that sense,
Okay.
we can pretend that they weren't, I mean, I don't care, but I just technically wanted to know how to, okay.
It comes down to the minutes were amended and we approved the amended minutes. So whatever changes were discussed, because I wasn't here, should be put in the minutes.
Yeah.
So perhaps someone should just make a formal motion to amend the minutes as follows. And then if everybody agrees.
I'll do that.
On
Thank
record,
you.
somebody, I think that's what she was talking about. There's a part of Robert's rules that somebody formally should motion to amend it.
But doesn't the original motion need to be rescinded first?
Not if somebody's, no, not if somebody's
There was never
motioning.
made.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just jumped into discussion of them before we proposed that they be approved.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
So
thought. So
That
I
could
think,
technically have been like Sarah and I discussed it via email since it was before a motion, right? So it was like they were edited prior to the motion. So,
no, because nobody else had seen seen what I suggested. So they do need to be in the minutes that
okay.
I am proposing we amend the minutes to change where Mary was marked as absent, that she be marked as excused. And on the third page in section 3E, to replace the words Boy Scout with Hazard and Ash.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Okay. So then I think the rest is fine. And then I proposed it, Chris seconded it, and everybody approved it. Catching up. Okay. All right, Chris, do you want to take the meeting back over?
Okay, Sarah, where did you end?
So that was just the secretary's report. We had just started the meeting. So treasurer's report's next, and I can talk about that if you want.
Yes, please do.
Okay. I received an update to the treasurer's report and got clarification. I had to get a clean copy of it, so I didn't have a chance to send it out to you guys. I just got that today. But there has been some activity finally this year. $17,790 have been added to the tree planting fund. Those were reimbursements. There were 3 of them. All of them came in June. And the reference numbers are not clear to me. I don't know, Connor, I sent you an email and you thought you might have a chance to look into that. Were you able to find out what those were for, specifically the properties that those were for?
No, I wasn't. I just saw that just briefly. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it literally just came in, but I will get the details for that for the next meeting. All I know is that one is just a reference number with a plan number, but is no street. Another is a Crestwood property, and another is a Laurel Avenue property that has Verizon's name associated with it. The largest of the 3 is 16,320, which is the first one that doesn't really give me any information to tell you what it's about. So I'll get that detail for you for the next meeting, and I'll try to be more proactive in getting that stuff in advance of the meeting next time. And then we also had activity in the other expenses fund. Oh, so the ending amount then, we went from $209,190 in that account to $226,980 in that account. For the shade tree other expenses, there was an initial balance change. There was only $100 in the account to begin with, but they've changed that to a $1,000 beginning balance. And then we have two charges against that, both from the Shade Tree Federation, and it is for our membership fees for last year, which never got paid, and for this year. So we will all fairly soon get our membership cards in the mail, and we'll be all back in the good graces of the New Jersey Shade Tree Federation. So that account went from $1,000 to $780. Any questions for me about that?
No, we don't have to accept, we don't have to make a motion to accept.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I need a motion for opening the meeting up to the public for the first time.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Do we have any?
It's open to the pub. Sarah, do we have any public?
I am looking. The hardest time we do. Hold on a moment. The Franklin Reporter is here. Franklin Reporter, you may unmute yourself and speak if you wish. You're unmuted, Franklin Reporter. Would you like to speak?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Motion to close the meeting?
Motion
I'll
to
motion to
close
close.
the public portion.
Okay. Sarah
I'll second.
seconds it. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's approved. How are we doing on CEU, Sarah? Did you?
I am very happy to tell you guys, not on the CEUs, but I'm very happy to tell you guys that I went into Tree City USA just before this meeting, and Franklin Township is back in the good graces of Tree City USA, and we are listed as a member with 19 years of continuous service. So
Nice work, Sarah. Yay.
I'm so relieved. I did not want that to fail on my watch. Now, on the other part of it, which is the New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry Program, which is the state's program, we are not yet in the good graces there. We are still ineligible to apply for grants or other stuff because we still don't have what they consider appropriate certification of the CEUs that the DPW received. The certificates that we have from the DPW show January 2021 dates, and they need NJUCF needs something showing that the training took place in 2020. So I've sent an email to Mariana at DPW asking if she has any invoices. I have not heard back from her on that yet. And that's something that's just really got to get resolved pretty quickly. We're not in any danger of defaulting. It's just, we can't apply for grants. We're really not in great standing. So it's a documentation thing, and I've been back and forth with the state on it. They know they're being nice about it, but they can't approve what we've sent them, and I totally understand that. So we're still trying to get documentation.
Okay, thank you for Sarah.
Chris, I sent you an email before the meeting. I don't know if you saw it, but one other requirement is obviously to continue these meetings on a monthly basis. And the virtual meetings were set up through June on the direction of the township clerk. And I have no direction of what to do from here forward. Have you received any direction as to whether we're to continue virtually or to show back up, or to start going to the large conference room again?
I have nothing on that. I'll double check my emails, but before it would have been from the town clerk.
Yeah, for Anne Marie is who had originally communicated with me last
I would
winter.
think Jim might have something to add to that as far as what the council is doing, which would reflect possibly on what we're doing.
Arnie, you'll have to get closer to your.
Yeah, I had the microphone down. I was just saying that Jim would most likely have something to say about that, since the council is talking about when they might meet in person, and that would probably reflect on when we start meeting in person.
I could address that if you'd like.
Please do, Jim.
Okay, so obviously COVID is an evolving situation. Basically, we were not sure if we legally had to return this summer to in-person meetings having to do with the executive order that allowed for it in the first place. Without trying to remember and repeat everything that our attorney said at the council meeting the other night, this past Tuesday, it did come up. And the basic outcome was we do not know how long we will remain virtual. However, the town, excuse me, would like to transition back to in-person complete for everyone. In other words, whether it's this group, the planning board that meets 3 times a month, the council, etc. The idea was to do it all at once. And without getting into details or debate about it, collectively, we just felt we were not ready to do that. Or I shouldn't say ready. We are choosing not to do that immediately. We're doing it on a month-by-month basis. I believe we will discuss it, whether it's momentarily or in detail in the July meeting, and perhaps set it for August. Or discuss in the August meeting and set it for September. So I hate to be vague, but right now we're told legally we can continue to meet virtually. And anything the clerk says, take that over anything I say as far as when she instructs you how to do your meeting. But I believe that we will remain virtual for July. And really, it's just the, excuse me, month by month. They'll be reviewed and decided on a month-by-month basis, starting at the July meeting. So you can legally meet virtually, and I believe are supposed to meet virtually. But be prepared to pivot depending when the decision is made. I mean, you don't have to do anything, I believe, except put it out to the members and show up in person. But I mean, it could change quickly when it does change. We have a meeting in July and we have one meeting in August. So if a change is put in, it will probably be known to the public, and I'm sure be out in the media after the meeting in July, after the meeting in August, or I doubt it, but perhaps we'll still be meeting virtual in September. So I don't know if that confused anybody or kind of explained it, but that's what came out of the discussion in our attorney's report.
That helps me.
Thank you,
I will
Jim.
then go ahead and set up, I'll actually set up 2 virtual meetings, one for July and one for August. We can always cancel them, but at least they're set up and you guys will have the information.
I think that's good. And like I said, just be ready to pivot. We're all local, I think, so it won't be a big deal, but who knows? I don't want to speculate. I'm just going to say probably will happen in the next few months.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The next item is tree planting projects, maintenance and updates. Well, I talked at the open space meeting and I don't know who's responsible, but if we want to do something at Memorial Forest, I mean, going forward, I guess it's up to the council. I guess we have to propose something to the council. I don't know who does that. Does open space propose it or does Shade Tree propose it? As far as Memorial Forest, doing something with Memorial Forest. Because basically, we need a new plan, to start. And then we'll need money from open space and some of our money to begin it. Do I have any comments? I don't.
Can't we just send an email to open space, Tara or whoever, Bob Puskis, and tell them we have money to plant trees. Let us know where you would like to have them planted, and we will free up, whether it's Memorial Forest or wherever, and we will free up that money for you.
Yeah, I asked them that, and it's on new business down at the bottom. That's what they told me. So we'll wait till we get to the new business. Okay,
You just
We all
asked for
got-
comments on it.
what's that?
Never mind.
We all got to see the original plans, and they were quite lofty, I think, with pathways and fountains, I think, or something.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Well,
So is there a new vision?
that's what we need a firm to, we need the council and not so much open space, but we need to talk to council and see if they're okay with having somebody design a new memorial forest in smaller sections, because we don't want to do it all, we're not gonna be able to do it all at once.
It's
Yeah,
still,
Big
it
piece of
would
property.
still need to start with someone's vision, because you don't just commission that to a design firm without knowing what you want them to do. So where did the original plan come from? How did that come about? And does that impetus
that's
still
gotta be-
exist?
The original plan is 20 years old,
Uh-huh.
so, you know, that, I don't know where that came from and why it was developed. I just I don't know anything about it. I wasn't part of the board back then. Arnie, were you part of the board when it was first developed?
Not if it was 20 years. Not if it was 20 years ago. I go back 15.
Okay. I'm not even sure how long ago it was. All I know is when I joined the board, there was a plan sitting in the corner called Memorial Forest. And we still have that plan on file.
Is, Chris,
Yes,
is that the plan, or should I say chairman, I'm sorry. Is that,
that's okay, no problem.
is that the plan that talked about people would either pay for the tree or some other aspect of their labor or money, and they plant a tree in memory of a person in the memorial forest? Okay, I think it was probably a decade ago, but we were looking over this plan, and then it kind of just disappeared. So
Yes,
is this what we're
That's-
referring?
that's
Okay,
what we're from.
I was always curious as to that. But just figured the powers to be, or the people, weren't interested, or there was some other glitch. I do know that at one point, John Clyde was very involved, and obviously he has passed. But bottom line is, if you want me to bring something to, I believe it would be the land use committee,
Right,
and then all the council, I will gladly bring whatever you want. I mean, I'm not bringing it to say, oh, absolutely do this. I bring whatever a commissioner board is interested in doing, and then we discuss in the appropriate committee. What I would say is anything that involves allocations of funds, although we're not legally beholden, we always confer with open space, usually almost every time, taking their advice, sometimes not. But the bottom line is, it may be beneficial for this group to confer with them, or I don't know if you have a liaison there.
I am
Yes.
the
Okay.
liaison, and I will bring it up at the next meeting, but I don't think that'll be till September. They usually don't meet in July or August, so we will table this conversation until September.
Okay, and just so you know, open space appropriations, a little bit different than some other types of appropriations, can be made at any time. You don't have to wait to a yearly council budget cycle. If something is, okay, I just want to let you know. So there's not really
Yeah.
time constraint. And I assume at this point, if you do something, it would actually happen, or perhaps early next spring. I'm assuming then you're not looking to do anything for this fall.
No, we're not, and I wouldn't start anything until late summer. So if we're planting trees in fall. We have to, we do need planting, because we need to have some type of drip system to keep the trees alive. I understand that our township thinks the public works can do it, but they're usually stretched pretty thin for the most part. And I would like to see some type of irrigation. If we're gonna do it, I'd like to see some type of irrigation system installed with that. So
So
it's,
I think what you would probably want to do then, so we don't get too deep into it now, if it's all right, you as being the liaison, see if you can get some kind of consensus of at least the direction or an extent of the
Right.
project. You know, the more cohesive it is and the more people in agreement, you know, the easier. Although I'm sure we would probably bounce it back at some point for input, but we'll eagerly await what you come up with, you and open space in this group for September.
then.
And I will take it to land use when you're ready, when you guys
Okay.
request me to.
How about we set up a little subcommittee to decide how we want this to go forward? Who would help me volunteer? Because I'll lead it. Who wants to volunteer to help me with the subcommittee on Memorial Forest?
What would it be that we are looking to do in that subcommittee?
Well, we'll look at the old plan, Arnie, and then we'll look to, we'll look at it and we'll try and modify it into smaller sections, or just totally, some type of small conceptual design, nothing elaborate.
Can I offer though, I think if you're going to do it, you should consider the whole property, even though you might tackle only small bits at a time. So it's cohesive, even though it may evolve over years.
You volunteering for the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
I volunteer
Sue?
too.
Okay, then. Who was that? It was like Carol?
Yep,
Okay.
I've always been in favor of this, and I think more than ever since COVID that I think we would get, if we don't wait too long, we would be able to get a lot of people that might be interested in remembering someone who passed away during COVID.
I think you're right, and I'd like to move forward to this also. So,
Chris, would this be something that we might want to ask for the public's input as to what they might think is, ideas for a memorial forest, what their thoughts are? It would not only get their ideas, but also let them know that there's a shade tree commission.
Arnie, that sounds like a good idea. Let's ask for public input into the memorial forest, and then we can move forward with it. So how do we go about asking the public? Can we send out an email to everybody or a text message to everybody?
Isn't there a township Facebook page or something like that? I don't know. And
Yeah, but I don't do Facebook.
well, neither do I, Chris. But there are others. Probably everybody else here, but you and
No.
I do
No.
Facebook.
I don't do it either.
I said probably, Carol.
But
It's
will
like,
the Franklin Times ever be published?
Well, I think there is a due date for the Franklin Times. Councilman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a date of like July 9th that you have to get an article in by if you want to get something in.
I
Yes,
believe
it's
that's,
on our agenda.
yeah, I believe that's correct, but the actual edition, I'm going to say probably is somewhere between, as far as landing in people's mailboxes, somewhere between late August and October.
Yeah,
With COVID,
That's fine.
the whole schedule's been.
that's fine. It's just a matter of getting an article into it, and that has to be done by July 9th.
And well, there's two other ways I'm going to mention here. If you're really looking to reach out and get all kinds of input, they have a non-emergency type of thing where they text people or email people, because I get them a different way. I don't get them that way. I'm not positive how it works, but I believe via text and email, even for non-emergency things, there's a process. But I was going to say the two things that I think would help is on our township website, which a lot of the people that are interested in what's going on in town and tend to be more involved, on the main bulletin board right in the middle. I don't want to speak for management, but I believe that if you put something there asking and an email or something that they could send them to, that you probably will get people seeing that and responding. The other way, and the last thing I would do is ever speak for our media, seriously, but we have two great media outlets, one that's with us tonight, that if you wanted to write something up as a group, just, whatever the proper protocols for something to go out representing the group, meaning this board, commission, I'm sure that they may be, or hopeful that they may be happy to print that. So I think between the township website and our local media, you have done due diligence in asking people's input. Just a suggestion. You don't have to do any of it.
I'm not an IT person, but don't we need a spot to them to respond to that we can look at a later date? How do we set something like that up?
I am not an IT person either. And
That's a
why I
very
said
good question, Chris.
Is there an official mailbox for Shade Tree? Or is it just one of your addresses when people want to communicate, have a question?
It's one of our addresses. They just usually just emails one of our addresses. I guess we could set up a Gmail account for Shade Tree.
Sure.
Sarah, is that necessary?
As opposed to using mine, yeah, get somebody else's account.
Well,
I got enough garbage in mine.
I saw you raise your hand, so.
No, that's my email has been on all the communications that have gone out previously, but that's because I was chair and I'm not chair anymore. So no, don't use mine.
You're chair emeritus.
So then,
No.
okay, if we send a notice out to everybody, we'll have to set up an email account, and what the whole thing, you set up an email account, you need a secondary email account to set it up. Am I correct? Or can we just set up well, we'll look into it and we'll discuss it next meeting. How's that?
Well, you can discuss it at the next meeting, but if we want to get something in the Franklin Times, it has to be done by July. It has to be to them by July 9th.
Okay.
One other thing, and forgive me because I know I've said this before, but prior to any design being done, this could certainly be done now. If we could get a survey done of the property, it's absolutely necessary before you do any sort of design to understand.
I'm sure that the boundaries are in our Sarah, what is it? What is the program we have?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
The program we have for marking trees and stuff. That's in
the iTree? The iTree?
Not the iTree. There's a GPS settings that the township has with all with boundaries and water lines and everything else on it. I don't know what it's called.
But I think, Ellen, that's also a question for down the road a bit too. I mean, there's kind of two things going on here. You're identifying that there's an interest in doing this. You've decided that you want to put it out to the township for ideas, and you don't need to have the parameters other than a general location of where it will be to ask people what they'd like to see there. You don't have to give them a map or anything, just a general location, just to ask the question, what would you like to do? How would you like to do it? This is what we're thinking. And then over the course of the next months, work with engineering, work with DPW and whoever else to get the rest of it figured out. And then we do have the original plan that's been floating around. I think almost everybody should have a copy of that in their email somewhere because we've talked about it several times.
Yeah.
But that's
for
not
people
the
to,
that's
for
not
people, go
that's
ahead,
not
Ellen.
the same as a survey, and the company that did that doesn't even exist anymore. And
right.
so
No, there would have to be formal plans drawn up before you go forward with something else, but you need to figure out what you want to do before somebody draws up your formal plans.
Well, but no, I'm not talking about drawing up formal plans. I'm talking about an actual site survey of what is there now, what trees are there now, what the exact elevations are what the actual boundaries are. You can't just assume because because I checked with engineering and there isn't such a document in existence. So before,
Well, we're just gonna ask the public for ideas. Once we decide to move forward, then we'll have to get, everything costs money. A survey's gonna cost money, but the design, people who are gonna design it, who are gonna hire to design it, that's gonna be part of the scope of their work. Alan.
no, not necessarily. And the
But we
mistake,
can make it in the contract, we can make it part of their scope of work.
well, if you want to subcontract it out to them to get a survey done, that's a different story. But if you do a design without a survey, you're going to wind up with what you've got, for example, at Middlebush Park. Because anyway, we can discuss that further, but I am really, I feel very strongly about that. And maybe it takes a little more explanation to what I'm talking about, but it's never too early to get it done.
Well,
So
right now, it's a farmer's field. Farmer is growing either soybean or corn on it. I forget what he grew last year. But right now, the township has a lease to lease that land leased to a farmer.
But what we would have to let people know is, I would think, how big is the area that people are looking to design? Is it 20 feet by 20 feet or is it 100
Right.
feet by 100 feet? I
right.
mean, when people are going to be making suggestions, you have to give them a general idea of how big this project is before they send in their recommendations.
Yeah, you have to know what you're dealing with. Are you talking about just leaving the woods as it is? Or are you talking about, hey, please give us suggestions for where you'd like to plant trees in this part of the land? I mean,
I was more thinking of, would you be willing to support a memorial forest? That was my question I was
Right.
gonna ask.
Very
I wasn't
general.
gonna get,
Yeah.
where do you want to plant trees? Because that's way too many people involved to do that. I'm just saying, my opinion is, I think we should ask people if they want us to move forward with this.
Oh, that wasn't the point of this conversation when I
Right.
started it about asking for recommendations from anybody. I think we've already decided that we want to do this. I was saying, and I thought we were having this discussion about asking people for their ideas of what they would like to see in a memorial forest. Let them submit designs. And, we're not saying we're going to use one or the other, but it could help us with our idea of what people in the township would like to see.
That's gonna be hard to do without like Alan is saying, without some kind of plot laid out. I know the township has some type of program where everything's laid out, everything's.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're referring to, I didn't want to jump in before, but are you referring to our GIS program?
Yes, your GIS program.
Right, and that's pretty comprehensive and pretty high tech. But I'm just going to throw in for a minute here. I love everything I'm hearing. I think different people are coming from different perspectives as to what we're going to the public, what you want to go to the public for, and what kind of even general vision there is for this. And I always support getting public input, but it might be worth, whether it's your subcommittee and then this group as a whole again after the subcommittee meets, to kind of tweak out a little bit, more specifically, some options, so you just don't throw out complete open, some guidelines for the public when you're seeking their information,
right.
because you may just get stuff all over the place, good ideas, but have nothing to do with the practical, implementation or what this group's real vision is. So
Okay.
maybe you do that and then come up with, and then put it out to the public.
That's okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing I want to mention, probably in thinking here as I'm listening to people talking, the Nextel or the alert system probably isn't practical for this, but that I'm going to call it the bulletin board in the middle of the homepage of our website.
Right.
I think would be, along with the possible media article, but or whatever you guys do when you send things out in general to the public, to the press.
Yeah.
But
Jim.
you may want to get a better idea. The GIS stuff might be helpful. The other thing is if you can get the old survey and the old plan, other than the wind, a storm knocking some trees down or some other events, I think there's some benefit to having the original plan, because it sometimes isn't as expensive to update a plan or a survey or maps or anything as it is to create them new. So I don't know. And then
The
last
original,
thing-
the
Go ahead.
original plan is an 11 by 17 photocopy. It's not a full-size plan, and that would be.
There's no written report? There was no written
No.
report with it?
We never got a written
Not that we
report.
got.
Okay,
And no architectural drawings or anything. It was just a one
It was a conceptual plan.
conceptual.
That's what
plan.
they gave us.
yeah, many years ago, I think I drove back there, and I think a few of us from council, maybe even with staff, I can't recall because it was so long ago, drove back there, and we're looking at this about in reference to a couple of things, but including the memorial forest. So I don't know what's leased, and of course you don't want to go on private property or break any rules. But if people are comfortable, you may want to go out and do your own little visual observation and get a
Yeah.
sense of it from being there.
Yeah,
So
I can,
anyway,
yeah.
just an
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, we should do that. We should just take a walk out there and look at it and bring a piece of paper with us. Sarah, I don't think I have a copy of that plan. The other thing, Jim, how do I get a copy of you just mentioned the program? How do I get a plot of our open space at Memorial Forest? Because I would like just to get a plot of that, a printout of
Well,
that.
I think Mark Healy or Miss Kenyon, the consultant, or Mark Healy usually have access to all that and know all that stuff very
Okay.
well.
Mark Healy's on vacation this week, so I'll wait till next week and I'll request
Okay.
a printout of that.
I mean, I can't give him a directive to send it to you, but I believe he would be the one to request it from. And ultimately, if you have a problem, I can request from the manager, but I think you'll be able to get what you need.
Mark's pretty good. Mark's really.
Oh, he's great. I just
he's
wanted to
great
be
to work
clear
with.
that he's great. I work with him on so many committees. I just want to be clear that I'm not giving him a directive to give it to you.
No,
Yeah.
no, I will send him an email requesting it. And that's it.
Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
luck.
Perhaps
I
one
think
of the
it's a
things
great
the
idea.
I'm sorry. Perhaps one of the things the subcommittee can look at also too, and see what other memorial forests or some type of memorials are out there around in New Jersey.
Yeah,
Just go
We'll just-
online and see what their concept, what their vision is.
I actually did that as a part of the initial exploration of this, which kind of stalled out when our family situation got complicated because Alice Osipowitz was spearheading this. So it's kind of been put on the back burner, but I had done a lot of preliminary exploration of memorial properties of all kinds, from labyrinths, which was one idea, to tree plantings, to just memorials in general. So I have a ton, at least of photographs, that I can, bring to the table.
after next Wednesday, I'm retired, so we can set up meetings. Carol, are you retired yet?
Who?
No,
Carol.
I am not retired yet. I plan
How's-
to work for another year or so, or who knows?
Okay. Okay, then. Then we'll just table this till we meet, our subcommittee meets. Okay. Next thing is Hamilton Street.
Are we
redevelopment.
gonna send something outside then to figure out a meeting time then? The first meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send something out. I don't know, I don't know if I can set up a virtual meeting. I don't know how to do that, but we can do a conference call or we can meet together.
Or we could meet at the site.
That's, yeah, the only problem with meeting at the site is parking is limited. There is no parking. That's one of the first things we'll have to do. Okay, let me move on. Hamilton Street redevelopment. I asked for a plan from Vincent. I got a plan with no specifications on it this past week. So I'm gonna email him again and ask for the specifications, or just ask him flat out. Will the trees be warranted for 2 years? And so that's where we stand with Hamilton. I have to do some more work on that.
I took a run down there about 6 o'clock today. I had planned to have photos available. Unfortunately, I can't get them out of my phone. But just real fast, I guess I looked at about 5 properties, 5 addresses, and about 20 some trees. Probably close to 2/3 of the trees that are there, let me say half, are in need of pruning, severe help. Some of them are pretty skinny looking and don't look like they're going to be able to survive. Couple of them in front of a restaurant there. It looks like someone out and pruned them into round balls. And then the last trees that I saw are in bloom and they are absolutely gorgeous. They have these red flowers on there. Next meeting, I guess I'll have them in advance so we can look at the state of the trees. There's a row of them, about 5 or 6, that are absolutely picture perfect in front of new construction. I'll have more details and comments on that because there are some mulch volcanoes, and somebody has also put pavers around the base of the trees. So it looks like almost anything goes right now. So it would be interesting to see what standard, if there is any, out there.
Okay. So we'll table this till next meeting. I'll have more information and you'll have more pictures. Okay. So,
I have a quick question.
yes,
I looked through my email and found that PDF of the Memorial Forest Plan.
right.
Would you like me to forward that?
Can you forward that to me, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mary. So now well, the rest of the items listed there are ongoing, and we need to take a run out and look at them to see how they're doing. So I'm going to skip those. I'm going to go to public inquiries. I didn't have any public inquiries this time. I didn't see any tree concerns or reporting. So we go to updating the website. I guess that hasn't happened yet. I don't know where we stand. I know the township was upgrading the website, and then we were going to do something after they upgraded. Is that correct? No, I guess so. Okay. Spotted lanternflies. Oh, all the nymphs are all over my yard. If you don't know what a nymph is, you probably have it on your yard. They're really evasive. They're all over the place. I'm leading a walk at John Clyde Grasslands on Sunday. If anybody would like to join me, we're going to look at birds and butterflies. And I don't know if we'll see any nymph lanternflies, but if we do, we'll point them out to you. But there are, I don't know if you heard the cicadas yet, but there are a ton of cicadas there flying around and calling. It's fairly noisy.
I took a ride from Lambertville to Belmead Co-op last week, and some sections along 518 were absolutely deafening.
Yeah, pretty cool. It won't happen again for 17 years. So landscape guidelines, we still have to work on that. That's no progress on that. Arnie, where do we stand with the roof?
Excuse me, Chris, you jumped over the Franklin Times article
Oh, on purpose.
on purpose?
No. Oh, what do you want? What we got? Is somebody gonna put something together for that?
Well, as we were talking about at the beginning, well, you were a little bit late for the meeting. We were reviewing what we talked about at the last meeting, which was that we were going to do a rather in-depth article on the hazardous and ash tree assessments and what the blue tags are all about. Just bring that back in front of everybody and hopefully be able to tell them where they can get more information and what's going on, but just a good in-depth information piece. Deadline is July 9th, and I'm willing to do that because we do have a lot of stuff that we've written on that already. We just really have to put it together. But I would really like, let me rephrase this. I am really close to that topic because I wrote the grant, I worked with the consultant, I'm kind of too on top of it, and I may not be able to present it in a way that is that answers the questions the public would have. So I don't want to do this on my own, and I want a lot of feedback from people, and we don't have a lot of time. So I'd like to work with someone on it, and then I'd want the committee to review it.
Okay. Can I volunteer Arnie as the editor because he's much better? I am terrible with English, as everybody knows. So Arnie, can I volunteer you?
To edit what Sarah's going to write?
Yeah, not editing. I'm a good writer. I'm just saying that making sure that what I am writing is addressing what the public is interested in hearing about. And I'm, Councilman, I think that you had some good comments about that last month, and I just, so I just want to make sure that we're addressing a really good, this is what it was about, this is where it came from, this is the intent of it. But the pieces that we really are still missing are how do people get more information about the blue tags? How do people get more information about the tree on their property that they're worried about? We haven't resolved that communication line. So that's one thing I'm worried about writing. But I can tell anybody they want to know what the blue tags are. I can tell them about what the ash tree issues are, what hazardous trees are, why we did the right of way, what the grant was about. I can talk about that.
Okay.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's enough. Why don't you put that together? Arnie, you sent it to me, and Arnie will review it, although I'm not the greatest at reviewing things. And then we'll send it to get printed up on July 9th. So we have about 11, 12 days to do that. Okay, that sounds good, Sarah. Okay, Arnie, do you have anything? Are we going to do anything on this tree tagging project, Arnie?
As far as I know, that's something that, no, not as far as I know right now.
So I can take it off the agenda?
I would take it off the agenda for now. I know we've talked about it in open space from time to time. If it comes back up, this was a project that we talked about, the Boy Scouts possibly being involved in. And they came back and said that it wasn't enough of a project to merit a badge of some kind.
Okay.
So, if it comes back up again in open space and we can talk about it here again, unless somebody wants to initiate it, the start of it again here.
Okay, so I'll just take it off the agenda for the time being. We can always put it back on at a later date.
Good.
Okay. Landscaping guidelines. I plan on working on that myself as, you know, as soon as the winter comes around and I have free time. Because right now I'm chasing butterflies and birds
And golf balls.
and golf balls. Although I played pretty bad yesterday.
What a life.
Wait till he's retired.
Anyway, what about the green roofs, Arnie? What are we doing with that?
I think you can take that off the agenda also. As far as I know,
Okay.
there's nothing going on with that.
I will do that. Okay, I don't know about any proposal. Well, the only proposal we have for with tree impact is the one we sent the letter out to. Have they had that meeting, Arnie? You know?
Well, let me comment on the letter that we sent out and we can talk about it. So this is the comments that we sent to the zoning board about the Data Bag One Vignon Institute's proposed development. I think it was sent out the day before their last meeting, the zoning board's last meeting.
Yes.
Overall, what we sent I thought was good, but I was somewhat disappointed for two reasons in what we sent out. What was left out of our statement and was in the first draft is what our township master plan says about scenic corridors. The master plan defines scenic corridors in part as areas that are visible from scenic roadways that may exhibit mature woodlands and dense tree stands. Also in the first draft and left out was the mention of climate change, even though we know trees are a big factor in helping reduce climate change. So there was also concern that sending our comments could create ill will because we may not have standing. And I believe we can send anything we want, regardless of our standing, because anybody can send comments to the zoning board. And I would suggest that since I'm the Environmental Commission liaison to this body, and the Environmental Commission does have standing, I could have standing for this commission. And all we're doing is stating facts, not our opinions. So I'm not sure how we would be creating ill will. There was also a sentence left out that stated that if the zoning board had any questions for us, we, the shade tree members or a member, would be happy to attend a meeting at their invitation to answer questions. So I believe that if we don't take a full stand on something like this, if we don't let our full position be known when an entity is proposing to clear cut up to 12 acres of trees without us taking a stand, a full stand, and talk about everything that relates to trees, I think this commission is not fulfilling its responsibility. I know there are many other important things this commission does, but if these trees come down, the 98% of people in this town that know nothing about this proposed facility, well, we will likely hear, and the council will likely hear from them, some of them, after they drive down South Middlebush Road and possibly see 12 acres of tree stumps. And the least we can do is provide all the facts to the board, the zoning board, and then we can say we did our best to try to stop this from happening. Not to mean that we're trying to stop them from building this facility, but to try to stop them from cutting down this many trees. I believe, let me just one more thing. I believe we need to clarify with Ms. Woodbury, who, Chris, you sent your email to with the attached comments. So we need to clarify with her for the zoning board to see that we would be happy to answer any questions the zoning board or the applicants has for us about our comments, and that we'd be happy to attend a meeting at their invitation. And we should also amend what we said to include the information about the master plan and the scenic byway issues. I believe the next zoning board meeting or hearing is July 1st. So I think, Chris, you probably have some comments on that. Maybe Sarah has some comments on that. Anybody else?
Well, you were going to say that you're going to go to the meeting representing the Environmental Commission? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Chris.
Do you want to attend a meeting representing the Environmental Commission and the Shade Tree Commission? Is that what we're proposing in the beginning?
Well, I would be happy to do that, but what was in the letter, the draft that I believe both Sarah and I had, I think the last sentence talked about letting the zoning board know that, you know, we would be happy to have somebody attend one of their meetings at their invitation if they wanted to ask us questions. And that sentence wasn't in there. Now, in your cover email that you sent to Christine Woodbury, you said, call me if you have any questions, but that's different. I mean, you know, she's not the one that asks the questions. It's the zoning board and the applicant that would be asking any questions that they have of us.
Okay. You know, if you want to propose, you want to prepare something, I'll review it. And I'm not a very good public speaker at all. I will attend a meeting, but I want you to speak.
Well, I'm not a great public speaker either, but if people ask me questions, I'm better at answering questions than just getting up there and talking off the top of my head. But
Yes.
there were also things that were taken out of the letter or the comments that I think should have been in there about the master plan. And I know that Sarah had talked about an enabling language that she wanted to use, but the master plan talks about trees, and it talks about the scenic corridor, and the scenic corridor talks about trees. So whether it's in our enabling language or not, it's still talking about trees. And if it's talking about trees, this commission should be addressing it.
Okay.
If I may, just for clarification for the rest of the commission, I wrote that letter, and I decided when I wrote it, in my head very loudly was the concerns of some of the commission members at the last meeting about setting a precedent, and that we needed to do this, not just for this particular development, but for any development going forward that had significant tree impacts. And when I sat down to write it, I felt comfortable writing to our ordinance, our proclamation that we do every year on Arbor Day, anything from Shade Tree Federation, anything from US, from the Tree City USA, anything that was specific to the shade trees, Shade Tree Commission, I felt comfortable writing to that, and that's what I wrote. And it was brief and it was succinct. It was to the point. And as I commented to you and Chris when I sent it to you, I felt it was the type of language and the type of scope that we could use for any development going forward when we wanted to submit comments, and that it would stand up to scrutiny for that purpose, and also make it very easy for us to do in the future. Because if we're going to do it, we need to do it anytime this comes up again. And it has to be easy for us to do, or it won't get done. And so I felt the consistency was a very important part of that. You wrote back and expressed your concern about the scenic corridors and the climate change, and I amended my piece and sent it back out. That is not the one that Chris sent, and I don't know if he saw my second piece or not. This was done with just a few days before the meeting. You sent your outline to us just like 3 or 4 days before it, and I turned it around as quickly as I could, but I do work full time. I work 2 full-time jobs actually, so I didn't have a lot of time to spend on it, and I didn't have a lot of time to wordsmith it, which I also commented on in my letter to you and to Chris, because I would have liked to research it further. I don't have the language that's in the scenic corridors piece, and I didn't have time to look it up. I didn't have time to look up the information on climate change that's in the council that you referred to. So I didn't feel comfortable quoting it directly myself. So here forward, I think this is an opportunity before the next development proposal comes across our plate where there are significant tree impacts, to sit down and do a boilerplate piece that we're all comfortable with. And that can be used over again. And when we have some time to research it and wordsmith it so that it does really portray the comprehensive impact to trees and to the community. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's where I came from. That's what happened. That's what I did.
Well, Sarah, I just, first, I wrote the first draft and I sent it to you and Chris. So you took the words that I did. Let me finish. You took what I put together and you wordsmith that. And I was fine with most of what you did. You added wording about 222 and stuff like that. And I said in my response that, I was fine with what you had done, how you had changed it, but I was not fine with taking out the information about the master plan because I was very familiar with the wording that's in the master plan and it should have been in there. And when it comes to climate change, trees and climate change go hand in hand. And there's a resolution that the council did about climate change. And of course, there's also the tree proclamation. As far as a template is concerned, I think it's a good idea to have a template. However, every situation isn't the same. This happens to be different in one respect, that it's on a scenic corridor. So a template being used, if we're using a template, that would be fine. But for a place like this, you have to add something about the scenic corridor because it's in the master plan. So I would just like to, I would like to see this commission send something further to the zoning board when we're saying, we would like an invitation. If you want to hear from us, we would sit down and answer your questions, and also possibly say stuff about the master plan, what I had written originally, and climate change, because they're both very relevant. And I would think that anything that we write in a template, since it has to do with trees, that climate change would be involved in it. We know what trees do. But in this case, again, the master plan is relevant because of the scenic corridors.
So what are you proposing, Arnie? You want another letter sent out?
Just something very brief that says, that one sentence. And Sarah, you're right about I think what Chris sent out was your original reiteration of what I wrote, because your letter did have a sentence in there. I had the sentence in there and you rearranged it about, accepting an invitation to meet with, to go to one of the zoning board meetings. So I guess I just thought that Chris sent out the original letter from you and he didn't see the second one or something. I'm not sure exactly what he did. So a letter with, that part, as another sentence or two about the master plan and climate change.
Okay, is everybody for that? I think that sounds good to me. I have no problem doing it. Sarah, how do you feel?
I put it back in the second draft, so I'm fine with it.
Okay. I guess it's my fault because I didn't see that second draft, but that's okay. So, Arnie?
If you want, I will put something very brief together. I'll send it to you and Sarah again. And, if that's okay with everybody else, then we'll get that to them before the next meeting, which is, I believe it's July 1st.
Okay. Please do, Arnie. Please do.
Sure.
Okay. So now we go to new business. Review of Public Works website. I has anybody
Hold on,
reviewed?
Chris, I'm sorry. I was on mute for a minute. Before we move on, we should have a placeholder for the subcommittee that Arnie, Ellen, and myself are on. So I think going forward, we should have a placeholder there.
You mean on the agenda you're talking about, Bob?
Yes. Yeah, this is a group that meets once a month. And we just had a meeting a couple days ago.
I just asked if I should remove that, and Arnie said yes.
No. I didn't say anything about a subcommittee being removed. That was,
No, I didn't say subcommittee. I asked about, the
Green Roof Initiative.
the green news.
Bob is talking about something else.
Okay.
He's talking about the joint committee, the Environmental Commission and Shade Tree Commission Joint Committee. Bob,
Okay.
is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly.
I will put a placeholder in there for joint committee.
Okay, and we do have some updates we can bring out now. Ellen, I hate to put you on the spot, but since you're the fantastic note taker, can you bring out some highlights between you and Arnie? Because I think one of them is going to kind of address the landscape guidelines for development because of an upcoming, I guess, the personnel. There's a contractor that's going to be renewed, and we are looking, I believe, to try to use that person to help us move along in some areas.
You're going to have to refresh my memory a little bit. First of all, I'm not prepared to speak about when
Okay.
I'm at the meeting, because that was a million years ago. I was working on other things in the meantime.
Yeah, we just met on Tuesday
Yeah, I know.
with Rob. Okay, sorry. It's just that, so maybe Arnie, you can help me out a little bit. There was a person's name brought up, Arnie, who is
Bob, I don't think I was at the meeting. I
Are
think
you
I
talking
missed.
about Tara Kenyon?
the one with Robin.
Yeah, but Tara Kenyon is the only person we were talking about, perhaps asking to have her role expanded as sustainability coordinator. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so this is the meeting with Robin Saddam.
Right. Sustainability coordinator and grants, I don't know, grant writer.
Okay.
If that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So if I remember, and help me out if you can
I
here.
think this
I
was
do
a
have my
meeting from,
notes.
this was last Thursday, I believe was the meeting, is what you're talking about, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you did. We do have.
No,
let me see.
was the 22nd, this past Tuesday.
Tara's best role would be to identify the people to write grants, identify experts. And we talked about, again, hiring an
Right.
arborist or a tree specialist.
And I believe we were talking about her role and to help find someone that could help us with rewriting the landscape guidelines.
Mhm. I don't know that we came up with anything new though about that. I mean, we have variously spoken about getting Rutgers students to do that and or getting her specifically to help us with that or help find somebody to do that.
Okay. Well,
If I recall
anyway, we
correctly.
had talked about this person as possibly as helping us on some things.
Mhm.
All right, we'll just move on, and if there's nothing more, that was
Mhm.
this past Tuesday on the 22nd at 10 a.m., I believe it was. Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Mhm.
Okay, then. Review of Township Public Works website. I haven't had time to look at that. Has anybody else looked at the Township Public Works website? I know it's
Yeah.
not easy to report a tree. Go ahead.
Yes, but I don't know that there's anything new. It's just that if you go on to the homepage and you click on, I'd have to have it in front of me, click on the button that takes you to the Public Works website and we've discussed this before, I think, there is nowhere to, there's no button to, or check box for anything having to do with trees. It covers tall grass, potholes, anything having to do with roads, but nothing about trees. And so you either have to assume that by default you put it under other, perhaps, but there's nowhere that logically would direct a resident to put information about a tree concern. Now,
Okay.
this isn't specifically about the blue tags. This is just about an other tree concern.
Right, other tree concerns. So, should I ask Mr. Vornlocker to, have IT add a button to report hazardous trees?
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
I thought you were already doing that. I thought that was an email that.
No, I haven't specifically sent an email. I asked them about it, but I haven't specifically requested to add a button. I have a feeling I may get some pushback on that, but it is what it is. I will send him an email requesting that they add a button to report hazardous trees, as that is part of the township's responsibilities.
So the pushback might be, how does a regular resident determine something comes under the purview of hazardous?
Maybe we should put a definition of a hazardous tree underneath on that button.
Well, it's just a concern, right? I mean, tall grass, I mean, how tall does it have to be a traffic issue?
Right, it's the tree
Yeah.
issues, tree concerns,
Yeah,
I just
tree
want-
concerns.
yeah.
Okay,
Doesn't
that's
have
what we
to be
can, we
hazardous.
can have a button saying tree concerns.
That would
Chris,
be better.
I'm wondering if they can put that button on the DPW site, could they put that same button going to the same place on the shade tree page?
I asked them to put a button on the tree. That's what you're talking about. Remember, I asked them to put a button on the Shade Tree Commission report
Yeah.
hazardous tree. It never happened. So I will ask them to put a button on the Public Works and link it to shade tree and have a link on a shade tree. So
Yeah.
that's I'm writing this down right now.
Okay.
Just for clarification, is the idea that you want inquiries for anything having to do with a tree or for a tree that they suspect could be hazardous or dangerous or blocking the sight line at an intersection?
It's just trees of concern is how we're gonna have a button. They can press on that button and fill something out.
Okay. Now I'm just trying to visualize, because if you just make it, if you have any tree questions, you may get people asking you to help, do you plant a tree or, care for a tree? And that may be what you want also, but it sounds like you're concerned about.
We do not want to plant trees for public people. That's.
No, I know. I'm saying is, I'm sure you guys would be helpful with anybody that has a question about tree. I'm just curious because from what I'm hearing, it's, you want people to report or ask. You want people to say, hey, I think there's an issue with this tree, check this tree out, but it's more for
Yes,
problems, disease, hazards.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have a concern about this, a tree?
Well,
Right.
we could provide 5 examples, whether it's, where you check a box, whether it's disease or you think it's a hazard, or it's blocking a stop
Yeah.
sign, or it's,
Yeah.
or it's overhanging a sidewalk or a sight line concern, and then put, something for other where people can write in something else, what they think their concern is.
There is a paragraph at the top of that page kind of giving examples of what they're talking about by selecting those buttons below. Like, do you have a concern about blah, 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 a guardrail that's dented or tall grass or, so they in part of in that paragraph that could explain it, are you seeing a tree branch that's blocking a street sign or potentially dropping a limb on the roadway?
Okay.
And I think it also has to do with, people who have a blue tag tree or a dead or dying tree. Then no one knows where to go to report it or who to talk to. We had a gentleman with us last month that had that issue. He didn't know who to ask
Yeah,
or
and
where to go.
No, I remember the conversation. I just mentioned I did follow through and sent Mr. Vornlocker, Mr. Ford's, I'm not Mr. Ford, Mr. Gale, who lives on Ford's Street. And he, I have it on my list to follow up, but not hearing back from Mr. Gale or Mr. Vornlocker. I'm assuming it was taken care of, and I don't mind doing that, but I understand what you're saying is, what is the average resident who doesn't want to jump on a meeting or, isn't the type to track down a council person? How can they get immediate action on that? And I'm going to say there's still a little bit of a question mark on that, but I think what you're doing is a step in the right direction. And just a little information, you may already know, but the last council meeting, we approved a resolution for Tara to also take on the role as that environmental compliance. I don't know the technical name, but that was approved at the last council meeting.
Sustainability officer.
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know the technical name, but basically
Okay.
that job assignment was added to the other things that she does, with a separate amount of money attached to it, of course. But just thought you were talking about it before, so I just thought I'd mention that was
Just out of curiosity, does that extra money come out of the open space trust fund?
I'm thinking it's a good question, and I remember when it came up because we review everything we spend, believe it or not, especially in the budget cycle. That was a couple months.
I'm just curious. I mean,
I honestly don't
I don't
know.
need to know right now. I was just
I'm
curious.
going to say I think it may have come out of some fund other than the general tax levy. One of our open space or tree or some fund that deals with it. But I could find out for you, Arnie. I just wanted to let you know that was done.
That's great. That's great that you did
And
that.
I'm happy also if anybody has an inquiry about hazardous tree that goes to one of you or in general, you're more than welcome to, whether it's my word or not, to let them contact me. I mean, I think ultimately a better process tweaked out that is efficient as possible is best. But in the meanwhile, I'm happy to, work with Mr. Vornlocker to have the town take a look at any tree tag stuff that people are concerned about.
The question I would have is, if somebody has a hazardous tree on their property and it could fall on my property, what is the procedure for me to have that guy, take that tree down? Is there anything available for me to enforce that, him to take his tree down?
If it falls on your property, it's your problem.
Yeah, I know, but if I ask him to take it down and he doesn't, and it falls on my house, it's my problem. So I guess, oh, never mind. There's no way to address this.
No, I
I
think
think you
that's a
just,
good
I think you
question,
just
though.
need to, I think you just need to document it because it does become, if his tree falls on your property, from the property line over, everything, as you know, is your responsibility to chop it up and get rid of it
Right.
and take care of whatever damage it does. It's your insurance that's going to take care of that, hopefully, but it's your responsibility. But if you document that you have sent letters, emails, or whatever, that might be helpful for your insurance company to make his insurance company pay for it.
Pay some of it at least.
But
Okay.
all these questions that we've had, that we've discussed over many meetings, are legitimate questions and are the sort of thing you might have under a frequently asked questions section. And I mean, if we could get our questions together and ask Mark Healy or whoever, you know, just submit a whole bunch of questions to them that could form a frequently asked questions section about blue tag trees or hazardous trees. I think that would be very valuable.
Yeah,
And
we can put that underneath the shade tree website.
We actually, when we had drafted out the plans to revise the website, the frequently asked questions is on there. We had several conversations about it, and we actually started a list, but it didn't proceed. So I can easily resurrect the FAQs we'd already come up with.
Okay.
Speaking of tag trees, did we ever get a response from DPW on that?
What are you talking about?
Remember we had asked a couple times as to that they do have the list and how, what's the status of that list on the trees that were rated most hazard? We were
Good
looking
question.
for a report, monthly or quarterly, I forget what we said.
It was in the minutes last month. Yep.
Okay, so we have not gotten a response.
no, we were going to get an updated list on what was done with the how many blue tagged trees were handled. We didn't need the whole list. We didn't need an update on the whole list, but just which blue tagged trees have been dispensed with to whatever
Yeah,
degree.
but they don't keep a list.
But
No,
this
they
is what
do.
this is what we discussed last meeting. It was part of a tree log, but we were gonna ask for I'd have to refer to the meeting
Yeah, we
minutes.
had quite a discussion on that. So what
Yeah.
are the status, you know, since we spent all this money and put quite an effort in there, if they're not recording that information, how do we know what's being done?
Jim, were you going to handle this?
Well, okay, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to jump in, but I guess I will. You know, this is, the program's not new to me, but this discussion, and I'm going to say what might be a little, you know, things falling in through the cracks aspect of this is new. And I brought it up, I'm trying to remember if it was Public Works or Land Use meeting. And my understanding is we know the trees that were tagged. Somewhere we know they were tagged.
Right.
That we are not proactively, and I don't want to speak totally if you know, if PW wants to chime in, please. But my understanding is we're not proactively going and checking the trees or calling or not proactively monitoring it, but that if in the way of other work that goes on or other things that PW does, they see an issue, or by way of, like I sent in, or somebody from this group, the town will follow up. And I'm going to say follows up quickly and you know, takes it very serious. You know, if somebody says, you know, 3 limbs fell off that tree, or it's tilted over, or a branch fell. The bottom line, though, is, and this is what I found out by this asking about it, is a lot of these trees are not, some are on public land, public right of way, and some of them aren't. They're just close to the public right of way.
Okay.
So we have some limited ability of going in and doing things anyway, or going and walking on people's lawn to inspect a tree. So there are some practical reasons why it may not be as proactive ongoingly as we would like it to be, or that it can be. But I think we can make this a more efficient program, but because there's a lot of trees that aren't on public land, I think that's part of what limits us to doing involved follow-up. You know, I was told that if there is any issue, again, you know, go right to management, go right to Public Works, go to me, go to whoever, and it will be dealt with. So I don't know if that helps at all, But as far as the inventory and more information, I mean, I think we can make the information more available and more in depth, but I'm not sure what exact activity do you want to see the town do
I
in following
think
up?
I think we're looking at those that were deemed the most urgent or most dangerous category. I forget whatever it is, the one that's, the ones that were tagged, there were several categories. Which ones? Those are the ones I believe we felt that the township should be proactive on. And for those that not on public land, has a letter been sent to the homeowners saying that, by the way, this is what we assess the tree as, just wanted to let you know. However, there are liability issues. I would think that once a situation is known, either by the township where we're concerned on public lands, that could be a liability. And the reason why we did the survey was to identify these trees so the township could go and look at these things so they wouldn't become a danger to the public.
And forgive me because I know I got the minutes done very late, but there was a motion made at the previous meeting that to request an updated list of hazardous trees from the iTree database. And Councilman Vasanella did request that we highlight this in the minutes, and it was my fault that they were so late, but maybe next month.
Now, I apologize. I do remember that. But you weren't asking me to obtain that list, or were you? I mean, I can request it,
I
but
believe we were.
okay, then I will specifically get the list. Like I say, we've discussed it. I've discussed it at meetings. I've discussed it, I believe, the PW director and the manager in the meeting. But I'll ask about obtaining that list, and I'll ask if it can be sent to the to all of you. Or
Okay.
I could pass it along. I believe it's public information. The thing with the liability, getting back there, we do need to be very conscious of our trees that are on public land. And I'm not against, I'd have to, see what the manager and, any legal concerns, but sending out a notice to let somebody know why a tree was tagged on even their own property, and then up to them what they do. That makes sense. Are you sure that nobody has been informed? I know I've gotten a couple of inquiries at times with people, the tree was kind of borderline. They said, hey, my tree is tagged. What is this all about? And I talked to the manager and they went out. And
in my neighborhood specifically, they had a tree that was tagged, had no idea what it was, but I directed them where to find the information. So proactively, a letter was never sent out, I'm assuming, to any of the property owners.
And Jim, what you just said sort of bears that out, where people contacted you and said, I had a tree tagged on my property and I don't know what it's for, which tells you they never received anything from the town.
Well, yeah, and not a lot, I just want to be clear, but it comes up once in a while. And I think people are aware that it has something to do with the health of the tree. But no, they apparently they have not been. Look, I'm not condemning or condoning here. I just, I'm aware of the program, but I didn't create it or, manage it all along. So I'm happy to get involved. It's just,
Okay, let's let Sarah talk.
it's just evolving now.
Go ahead,
I was
Sarah.
just going to say that it was an identification and tagging project. It included sending out through the Franklin Times. We had a couple articles in there, and on the website, and we did a couple of blast announcements to the general public about the blue tags and that we got the grant, that this was going on. So there was public communication. Some people don't pay attention to it. That's fine. That's their deal. The logistics, I'm not saying that it can't be done, but the grant and what followed didn't include a formal notification to individual residents. Keep in mind, there were over 3,000 trees tagged in the township, and they were tagged with a GPS location and an identifier, not someone's street address and the owner. So you would have to have someone go through and identify where each of those trees are, what property it is on,
That's a
and
lot of
then
work.
do a communication. So that is a huge project. It was not part
Right.
of what we were doing. And the whole purpose of what we were doing was to provide the DPW with information to help them prioritize maintenance and maintenance of damaged trees and sick trees and removal of dead and hazardous trees. So it was to provide a maintenance path, a maintenance plan, if you will, for DPW so that the township could deal with the trees. So I just want to put that clarification out there. There was never any intent in what we originally set out to do to individually notify people, because that is a huge other lift that we did not have the funding for or the intent to do. And certainly now, given the COVID and, shortage of people and all that, I really doubt that we want to do that today.
Okay.
But I
Thank you,
would
Sarah.
say we can write this article for the July 7th deadline of Franklin Times and bring it back up for people. But I would love to have a place for them to ask further questions and to get more information. And this portal thing on DPW's site and on Shade Tree site is a place where they could at least say, hey, what's going on? Tell me individually.
Okay.
And thank you for letting me know, because you're saying they're not identified by a street address. So that makes it obviously impossible that they would not be communicating. So it's done through, you said the
Yeah.
GPS.
I might be
reference points.
misspeaking. Wait just a
Okay.
second.
Well, no, I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat. I'm just saying that there's a lot of components here. It's a great program, I think, and this happens sometimes with grant programs that originate from grants, that they're absolutely fantastic,
Yeah.
in theory, but then the follow-up and the implementation, or if it's something that has to do with enforcement, unfortunately, sometimes, and I'm just saying in general, like not name any specific thing or about our town, that there's a gap between the follow-up or being able to get
Yeah.
everything you can out of a grant-funded program like this. So we'll work on it and try to make it better. But bottom line, I will request. I apologize for any miscommunication. I'll request the inventory list. That should be public information, and get that. As far as the portal, it sounded like you guys had some good ideas of a little bit more outreach. You have the article going on, and we're not gonna make this 100% efficient overnight, but I think all these things are moving in the right direction, and I will request the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim, I have
That's
one
okay.
other request of Public Works. Connor had informed me at the last meeting that they were taking the tags, as they removed the tree, they took the tags and they didn't do anything. They didn't record them. They didn't do anything with the tags. We've got to start recording what tag trees are being removed, or at least keep a box of the tags so we know which tag trees are being removed, because we have no idea.
There should be a status next to every number when they remove a tree or tend to a tree.
Connor, are you on still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Am I correct? You told us last time they weren't recording the tag that they had taken the tree off the tree that had to come down?
That is the information I was given.
Okay. Are they collecting the tags? Do we have a collection of the tags?
We do.
Oh, you have all the tags then?
I believe so. But
Okay.
so here's what we do. We take them off and we'll hold them. And at the end of the day, usually, I know in the beginning of this program, when we started taking down these trees and we started collecting these blue tags, at the end of the week, I would keep them. I usually kept them all in my truck because I drive the chipper truck. That's usually my job. I drive the chip truck. So I'm proactive, go right up, pull the tag off as they're dealing with the tree. If it is a removal, it's just a prune, I'll just kind of leave it. But if it's a removal, take the tag off, and I keep them in my truck to the end of the week. And then at the end of the week, I would hand them into Carl. but as we moved on, they were handed into the foreman. So I don't know if he handed them into Carl, but I know we collect them and they should be at Public Works.
Okay. Jim, can you check on that with Carl when you have your Public Works meeting to see if he has the tags?
Yes, I will bring that up. We're meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Actually 2 weeks from last Tuesday. So
If he doesn't have the tags, can we make sure that we collect the tags from now on? At some point, we can get somebody to enter it into the database, but obviously we have to make arrangements for that.
yeah.
Chris,
Jimmy, go ahead.
Okay?
yeah, James, finish up.
No, I was just going to say the concern is ultimately you guys want to know what trees are taken down. So you have a reference point of the ones that are taken down or maybe substantially pruned out or whatever. And right now, it sounds like Public Works probably knows and has a system. You just want there to be clarity, and that information, I don't know, you got, whether it's quarterly or yearly, if this group is interested, you can reference it if you have a running record. And the tags probably are the running record. I'll try to provide some clarity as to, exactly how it's done. And
see if they're entering the tags into the database. If they're not, and they keep the tags, if they can be entered in the database in a future date, that works too.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like if what Connor just said was that if they go out and just trim a tree, that tag is going to remain on there. So that doesn't tell us, if the tag hasn't been handed in or nothing's been recorded as to what has been done with that tree, you won't know how to update in the database what is going on with that tree. And my question to Sarah is, since you were more involved in this than anybody, do you recall if in the protocol for this program, if that was part of what was supposed to be done when one of these trees are tagged and then something is done to that tree, whether it's trimmed or removed, whether that was part of the protocol to enter that into the database?
Yeah, I mean, this was supposed to be the start of a maintenance project and plan. It was supposed to feed into, it was set up in some sort of a software that was supposed to feed into the work tagging or the work tickets, I guess.
Yeah, the work orders that were supposed to go out to the workers. So
right, and so that you could go in there, so that you could go in there and then you could just pull a list of, you're going down to this section of the community and you could pull the list of all the most hazard trees that needed to be removed, and then the next most hazard tree that needed pruning, and you could go out and do it. And then, yes, come back and update that inventory, that log, to say that tree's now gone, don't worry about it, or that tree's been maintained and we can change the classification from highly hazard to a watch or a maintenance, or check it back in 5 years, depending on what they did on it. So it stays in the inventory and becomes an ongoing thing that they could look at and see what they're supposed to be doing with it. It was just supposed to take the guesswork out of what's going on with the trees in the township. And if it's not maintained, it's all guesswork again.
And if it's a street tree, the great thing would be for replacement. They would know where they should put replacement trees. Bingo, they don't have to guess it. Here's the tree that's gone. We know a tree has to be put back in its place.
Well,
too hard there.
Future planting plans.
Not necessarily. Anyway, so let's just take one step at a time. Let's just make sure they're saving it, that somebody has a collection of all the tags that have been taken off the trees that have been removed.
And realize, and again, Connor, if you're not comfortable, please, you don't need to comment, but you may have something more insightful than me to add to this. The Public Works maintains a lot of trees, some planned, some unplanned. All of a sudden there's dead trees in the park. They got to go cut a bunch of them down before they fall by a playground. So I'm not out there in the field with these guys, but I know that they're doing a lot with trees that aren't tagged. So again, I think this is a great program and has the room to be more efficient and productive for our town. But that's what I was alluding to before, because theoretically, what you were describing, Sarah, makes sense. But they're out there working their tail off in this, time of year. There just may not be that set up to where information's typed in, or, hey, we had to cut down 4 major limbs on this tree. It may be dying. It's a tagged tree. So again, I think this is evolving. There's room for improvement, but remember, a lot of their stuff aren't tagged, but Connor would probably have more insight as to practicality of keeping track and what goes on in the field than I do. Or, if he's uncomfortable, maybe Carl or a foreman could give you guys a little more insight. I think there's a way to make it better, but there's a lot of variables. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you. There's a lot of variables, and like I said, baby steps. We just find out where all the tags are. And then after we know where all the tags are, maybe we can get somebody to enter into the database. But let's just make sure we have all the tags. We're saving the tags.
Chris, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is this list a PDF? Is it like a printed? Like, what is? I haven't personally seen this list. I don't like. I'm just asking, how would this information be entered? Like, is this like a printout list where, all right, if you guys want to see it quarterly, or bi-yearly, is this something?
Sarah can answer that question, because I'm not sure. Sarah, can they print out a PDF of the trees and tag numbers?
How do you guys want to see this list? You want to see it is it on a PDF file where, say, let's say if I wanted to, if I'm stepping up and, all right, because I'm out there, I'm taking these trees out,
Right.
And, at the end of the week, I punch in, let's say, 14. I punch in for 14 tags that, all right, we took these trees out. And then I save this PDF or however this file is comprised of.
That's something that that Jim should discuss with Carl, and Carl should tell you how to do it, because you just can't initiate that on yourself without your boss directing you to do that. Am I correct?
Well, I'm saying, because I don't know whose job it's gonna be to enter in all this information for you guys to see. As your guys' public works liaison, maybe this can be part of my job description, or whatever.
Okay.
This might have to be something like we said before. This is gonna be baby steps, going into the right direction. But there needs to be like a little push, to help get it there.
Okay. So
To answer your specific question, though, to me about what it's in, this was developed, this inventory, the whole thing is set up in iTree Streets, which is a software program that's available nationwide and through the Tree Federation. But the reporting is done through Crystal Reports, which is a programmable reporting thing. I'm sure that iTree Streets has some standard stuff that comes out of it, but there was supposed to be a whole interface that the consultant talked to Carl about, and it was supposed to fit with something that you guys have to generate your work ticket. So I don't know beyond that, but iTree Streets is the program that it was originally built in. The inventory was built in.
But DPW has access to the database.
They should. It's theirs. They have it. The DPW.
So all of DPW can access this?
We don't know.
No, I don't know.
That would be a
I don't know how
start.
DPW works or
That's
where it's
something
at.
Carl's gonna have to discuss with Carl and get back to us.
Yeah, it'd be good to know, is it a secretary or admin or Carl himself exclusively? Or, I mean, who can be the one to generate reports out of this?
We have a lot of questions. I do too. So we'll just take a baby sip and have Jim, and then Connor, look into it for us.
Jim, are you able to initiate that and see how they want to do it, or how Carl wants to do it?
Well, this is what I would suggest. Because we can all work together on the same committee, but obviously, we work through the manager and you work through your higher ups. What I will do is I will ask Bob, manager Vaughan Locker, for the inventory, whatever format he has it in, whatever information he has, basically anything with that, and get it to this group. If you want to, it's totally up to you, but kind of pursue the same information on your end. I don't think it will hurt, but that's your choice, because I definitely don't want to be telling, DPW what to do. But you've been involved with this committee and you see where the interest or the concerns. So anything that you think you can do on that end probably would help. But I think we'll be able to access the information pretty quick now that we're getting this deep into it. Coming up with a system that's going to probably come from Carl, and I don't know. See, I don't know, and I kind of don't want to get involved in how you guys operate. If you give them information, you sit around and try to come up with ideas how to handle these things differently. But I will work it through the Public Works Committee, because I think there is room for improvement. So we'll discuss on our end, whatever you could do on your end. But I think as long as that information exists, this group should have it relatively quickly. It's public information. We should be able to get it to you quickly.
I think at the very least, the very basics we're looking for. I'm sorry.
I hope that helps. Yeah, I'm just going to say, Connor, I don't mean to be evasive, but I don't want to.
We don't want to get in trouble, Connor.
Who, me? Well, no, me. He doesn't get in trouble. No. Public Works is a great group of people. I'm just, like I say, we don't get involved in their day-to-day structure or communication. But Connor, it sounds like you're pretty involved with the tree stuff. Sounds like you probably know as much about as anybody that's in Public Works, right? That you're out there. So, yeah, so I think it's great. Whatever you can do as a liaison to this committee that you feel is appropriate, pursue it. But I think we'll get some information pretty quick.
Jim and Connor, I think we're just looking for the basics. We're looking for a date,
Just an updated list.
a number, and what work was performed, and that's it. So we just know that something is going on.
We're not going to get that until we get the tags entered, and we have to make sure they have the tags before we can.
Yes, Chris, what I'm saying, that's the type of data, whenever it comes, we're looking for. Very basic, that's all.
Okay.
Right, and a system in place ongoing, so we don't run into this again.
Right.
Yes.
Ultimately, that's ultimately. So.
Yep.
We're gonna baby steps, but we'll do it as quick and as substantial as we can.
Thank you,
Okay.
Connor and Jim.
I'll make them. Okay, so we'll move on. Oh, the second thing is planting trees at schools. At the open space meeting, they suggested that we plant some trees at schools. They see all the money we have. Oh, go plant trees at school. Well, I'm not going to do that unless I get assurance that they're going to maintain the trees and water the trees we plant. I have no problem giving them money to buy trees and plant trees. The Public Works isn't going to do it. The Board of Ed guys will have to do it. And then I need some assurances that they'll maintain or at least water their trees for a while. So that's
we have seasoned people at DPW. The BOD can certainly ask, how do you do it?
Well, I need to talk to whoever's in charge of the Board of Ed first before we go there. And I asked Bob, I guess it's who is it? It's Bob. What's Bob's last name? Arnie, what's Bob's last name? His wife's on the Board of Ed.
LaCourte.
LaCourte.
Yeah. So I've asked Bob LaCourte to have his wife get in touch with me. I think I'll have to send him an email and ask that again. But that's, I have no problem planting trees at schools. I just want some assurances. Everybody's okay with that, right?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but it's gonna be, hopefully you can get that assurance. And
If I don't get
you know,
the
somebody
insurance-
assures something, then they gotta follow up with it, so.
Yeah,
I'd also like to recommend that that's an opportunity for an Arbor Day event.
yes, it is. We can always do that.
For ourselves next year, we always have to have an Arbor Day event, so
Okay,
timing is everything.
Great.
okay, Sarah, that's great. Okay, so now we're on our last item, which is open a meeting to the public for a second time. I make a motion, we open a public meeting to the public for a second time.
Second,
Okay, everybody raise their hands. Okay, I see an agreement. Sarah, do we have anybody?
Yes, Franklin Reporter is still there. Would you like to have any questions or comments about our meeting?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
motion to close to the public?
Second that
Second.
motion. Oh, we'll let Sarah second it. All in favor? Okay.
Chris,
now
I'd just like to say something before we log
adjourn.
out here. Jim, Councilman Vasanella, I'd just like to say it's great to have a council representative, a liaison, who can provide us with insight, who will listen to us, someone with authority, who will actually get our message out to the council, the manager, other appropriate people. We've been flying blind for a long time. So thank you
Amen.
very much for coming to our meetings and being a part of our meetings. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You make me blush. No, except for the authority, I don't know if I agree with that, but all the other things I think are appropriate, and I don't need to be thanked. I enjoy it, and you're also fortunate to have a great staff liaison. Matter of fact, just before you said that, I actually typed an email to Bob about the request of the list and any information and things that have been cut, etc. So you must have been watching me do that, huh, Arnie?
I have a camera right over your right shoulder.
No, and look, I just, there's certain things that can be done, and I always, I always recommend push for what you want, but there are practicalities, legalities, practicalities, financial considerations. So I'm
Yeah.
not here, if I'm giving you any information like that, I'm not here to, to poo-poo a project or your initiatives to take something further. I'm just, trying to give you information to help so that any efforts are as effective as they can be and as practical as they can be. So anyway, you're welcome, and I'll keep quiet now.
Okay,
Jim, we asked a lot of hard questions, but it's things we're always looking forward to improving. So we thank you for your help on that. We'll always ask questions, and hopefully we can get some results and help out the town.
okay. A motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make
I
that
may-
motion.
Yowzer.
I second it.
Okay, good night, folks.
Take care,
All in
everyone.
favor?
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.